Hi, so I got asked the question as why religious Jews dress so weirdly. So first and foremost, I should point out there is a wide spectrum of what it means by religious Jews. There are people who are Hasidim, who dress in very specific ways based on 19th century Poland and Ukraine, etc. There are Jews on the other end of the spectrum who pretty much dress like anyone else, except they may have a head covering. And there's everywhere in between. But the question, I think, is a good question as to why religious Jews, observant Jews, are careful about clothing and what we wear, whether it's a head covering, whether it's a suit, whether it's etc. So, and I think there are three basic reasons. A, clothing affects how people see you. Clothing affects your behavior in terms of how they see you. A friend of mine told me about a friend of his who is a Catholic and an actor, and he was playing a Chassid in a movie that was being filmed in Brooklyn, I think, or maybe the Lower East Side of New York. And he's dressed as a Chassid. He was sick of the caterer that the movie company was using, so he walked into an Italian deli and he said, "Give me a ham on rye." And the Italian behind the counter with a large crucifix said, "No." The guy said, "What do you mean, no? It's a free country. Give me the ham sandwich." The Italian says, "You want to go to heck? Do it yourself. I'm not going to help you." So this guy says, "You don't understand. I'm an actor." He says, "I'm Catholic like you are." He says, "I'm just dressed this way." And the Italian owner of the deli says, "I've heard that before. Get out of my store." But now, so clearly, number one, clothing does affect how others perceive you, and that can sometimes affect your behavior and morality. Secondly, it affects how you perceive yourself. I know when I used to be in reserves in the Israeli army, when I would put on the uniform, I could feel some type of transformation taking place. And it helps to act in a certain way. When I wear a suit and a tie, I feel more formal. When I wear a polo shirt, etc., I feel informal. So we know and understand that clothing affects how we feel about ourselves, and hence we are very careful about it. Third, uniform, i.e. identity. If I want to identify with a specific group, there are many professions where people wear specific styles or types of clothing in order to identify as a member of that group. So also, as a Jew, I would like to identify as Jewish, and especially if I'm a religious Jew, I'd like to identify with Judaism. And one of the ways we do that is through clothing, as many other people do. So A, how others see me is affected by my clothing. B, how I feel about myself is affected by my clothing. And C, the group with whom I identify is, of course, also affected by my clothing. There is one fourth idea, which is just a general rule, which the Talmud calls clothing mechabdute, which is that Aramaic word, which means that which expresses my honor or dignity. One of the ideas of clothing, according to the Talmud, is that it expresses the inherent dignity of the human being. Humans, as distinct from animals, humans have a sense of dignity. And that sense of dignity, we trace it to the existence of a divine soul in the human being, and hence we feel the need to express ourselves as dignified to some level of honor, some level of dignity. And I have a feeling, I heard this from my teachers, that if you would take away from a person every last shred of their dignity, they'd either go insane or they'd die. Humans need a certain level of dignity. Clothing is one of those things that bestows dignity and expresses dignity, and hence the Talmud calls clothing mechabdute, that which expresses or bestows dignity or honor, and hence we're careful about it in that way because it's an expression of that inherent human dignity, which is an expression of the divine soul in the human being. So I haven't given the complete history of Jewish clothing. That we'll have for another time, but at least we have 4 ideas behind why we are careful about our clothing. Thanks very much for watching.